EB5AN. Thank you for taking time to join us on today's webinar. Today, we're going to be speaking with Vinodh Ram, an EB5 investor from India, who selected our Tamarack Resort Rural EB5 project as his investment.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Vinodh here.
Hi, Vinodh. Thank you for taking a few minutes today to join us and share your EB5 experience. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure many of our viewers also appreciate hearing from someone in a similar position to themselves who took the leap of faith to join an EB5 project. So to start, would you introduce yourself and share a little bit about your experience with the United States and kind of what made you decide to pursue EB5 as a path to permanent residence in the US?
Sure. To start with, my name is Vinodh Ram, and I'm from India. I've spent over 16 years in Singapore prior to relocating to the US on an L1A visa. I've been to US multiple times before on B1, representing my previous employers. But in December 2024, I had an opportunity with my employer to move to US to manage a project. So I was moved here on an L1A visa. I have IT background. I've been working in IT for over 20 years. So I felt this was a great opportunity for me to explore and settle myself with my family in the US. So when I moved to US in L1A visa, my employer sponsored I-140 through EB1C. So the I-140 was filed in March of 25 and was approved in April 25. But as you know, for Indian nationals, the priority date is 3 years back. So that's why I had to pursue the EB5 route.
Got it. Okay. And what made EB5 appealing instead of just kind of remaining on the visa that you had with your employer? What kind of made you decide that you needed to do something different?
Absolutely. So I was thinking, okay, 3 years wait time, anything could change within this 3 years. So I was looking at other visa pathways to a faster green card. That's when I came across the EB5 pathway. And specifically under the EB5, the rural was more attractive because the dates were current for green card. And that's why I went towards this visa.
Got it. And were there other visas that you considered, or did you really kind of zero in on EB5 once you found that was a possibility?
I didn't consider any other visa because all of the visas for green card had a longer wait time. EB5 was the fastest pathway.
Okay, got it. All right, so last year, 2025, you decided EB5 was a good fit for you and your family to pursue permanent residency. What were your next steps? Tell us a little bit about your experience researching potential immigration attorneys to help with your application, and kind of what did that process look like of getting started?
Sure. So I spent at least a couple of months doing my own research online, learning more about EB5, the various EB5 pathways, rural, urban, reserved, unreserved categories. And then I also consulted with a couple of attorneys where the consultation was either free or fee waived. So if I continued my engagement with them, they would waive the fee for the initial consultations. So after consulting with multiple attorneys, I narrowed down on Murthy Law Firm. The simple reason was that they were extremely experienced in immigration law, specifically relating to EB5, where they had processed several EB5 petitions successfully, more or less with 100% success rate. And they also gave me a couple of reference candidates who had processed their EB5 petitions through them successfully. And this was quite reassuring for me that I was moving with the right law firm. After engaging with Murthy Law Firm, then the next step for me was to look at the EB5 projects itself. So Murthy Law Firm gave me an introduction to a financial consultant who had multiple EB5 projects under them. So I spent several weeks working with them, analyzing all the projects under their care. Unfortunately, none of those projects met my expectations or objectives. Hence, I had to go and do my own research. And that's when I came across EB5AN and the Tamarack project, which was quite fitting the expectations that I had from a project and investment point of view.
Okay. I think before we jump into the projects and the regional center, I just want to spend a little more time on the attorney. Once you decided to go with that law firm, tell us a little bit about what that experience was like preparing all the source of funds documents and getting everything organized. How long did that take, and kind of what was that process like?
Sure. The very first step with Murthy Law Firm was that the attorneys set clear expectations. The expectation was that, okay, from the time I started engaging with them, they said it would take approximately 2 months to put together the entire documentation. And they said the most time-consuming exercise in all of this was the source of funds. In my case, it was a bit easier. While it still took 2 months, it was a bit easier because I had all the records that they wanted. The record of my 8 years of pay slips, 8 years of my tax, 8 years of my bank statements, and all neat source of fund information, which was quite easier for the law firm to put together the entire documentation. While the documentation ran into several hundred pages, but all the information was there. There were a lot of back and forth with the attorney. They had certain clarifications on my bank statements, on the source of fund. All the clarifications was provided, and at the end, they prepared a thorough document. They sent it to me for a complete review. I reviewed it, and at the end of it, that's when they went ahead with the filing of the petition.
Okay, got it. In terms of advice that you'd share with another investor, who is going to go through that source of funds process, what are a couple of the main suggestions, tips that you would have, for someone who's about to start that process?
Okay, the first recommendation or suggestion for them is to go with a very seasoned law firm, right? A law firm which has tons of experience to back them up. A law firm which will stand by the petitioner throughout their journey, have a very good communication with them, set clear expectations, and then once the law firm is chosen, then they should ensure that all their source of fund documentation is very clean and they have appropriate evidences for each and every source of fund information. Along with that, the petitioner should also understand that it's not just the investment on the regional center. They also need to ensure that there is going to be substantial investment towards the actual petition, USCIS filing fees, the attorney fees, and any other consulting fees that they would need to shell out on this journey. And one more important thing is, along the way, there could be some RFEs if there was any doubt from USCIS on the source of fund. So the petitioner should negotiate with the attorney beforehand that any responses to the RFE is also included in the overall fees.
Got it. That's a really good point. All right. So moving on from the immigration attorney and over on to the project side. and regional centers. So I think you mentioned that you were introduced to a financial consultant who had a couple of projects they were working with, but you looked at those and you didn't find any that were really compelling, and then you kind of separately did your own independent research online, and then considered a few other projects. Is that right?
That is precisely right.
Okay. And so as you started, to look at some other options, what about the few projects that you were shown? What kind of didn't resonate with you, and what were some of the project characteristics that you were seeking out that you weren't satisfied with, with those
Sure.
first few projects?
The very first red flag is understanding if the project is I-956F approved or not. Some of the projects the consultant shared were in the process of getting the approval, but they were not approved. So as an investor, they need to understand that the basis of the 526E petition getting approved is only when the project in which they're investing has a 956F approval. If it does not have the approval, the petition just stays in the pending stage till that approval is achieved, which could add months of time into the entire approval workflow. So that was the first criteria. The second criteria is understanding the ratio of funds, right? How much the developer was bringing in through various means, and how much the project is relying on the EB5 funding itself. Any project that relies more than, I would say, even 25 or 30% on the EB5 funding, that would be a red flag for me. The third is the transparency in communication between the regional center and the level of documentation they possess or with respect to the project. Fourth is the stage where the project is. As the project being initiated, is it an ongoing project, or there's been no groundwork done yet on the project? Is it going to be a paper project rather than an actual project? So these are some of the evaluations that I did before, and the term of the project itself. The important consideration for me, at least, was whether I was going in for a loan-based project or an equity-based project. Right from the beginning, I was clear that I was more interested on a loan-based project than on an equity-based project. So these are some of the criteria that I initially looked into while choosing the right RC for me.
Okay. And in terms of the RC, even before we kind of get down to the project level, I'm sure you had discussions with a number of different regional centers. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of what those interactions were like, and what were some of the differences between EB5AN and some of the other regional centers that you were in conversations with as you were looking for potential projects?
Yeah, so if you look at all RCs, right, the key criteria for them is their sales pitch, right? What is attractive from a project perspective, and what information is being shared to the investor to convince them. If the if the information shared is not substantiated with the project document itself, then those kind of RCs are a no-go for me, right? Giving a brief experience that I had with EB5AN, I approached EB5AN to start with, and I was contacted through a person called Jordan, who works for EB5, and I had pretty decent conversation with Jordan. I think it was almost a 1-hour conversation where I had several questions on the project itself, and Jordan was extremely patient enough to address all my queries, and he was quite transparent. Just for an example, I was asking him the loan term of the project in which I'm going to invest was 4 + 1 + 1. So I was asking him, can I exit at the 4-year time frame? instead of going for the optional 1+1. So John was quite transparent. He said any builder would want to maximize the loan term to ensure that they have enough time to repay the investors. So he was quite transparent. He didn't uh, just tell me that, okay, it's just going to be 4 years. Yes, you have an option to exit at 4 years or anything as such. He was quite transparent, candid, and I really liked that approach. And I didn't see the same level of transparencies with other RCs that I engaged with.
Got it. Got it. In terms of kind of access to documents, to do your diligence, your research, look at sales information, financial statements, loan documents. How was EB5AN different from some of the other regional centers, pitching their projects?
Absolutely. Now, as I mentioned before, EB5AN was very thorough with their documentation. So whatever information I wanted, I had it in my inbox probably the next day or 2 days later. So I had all the information that I needed from a project perspective. And EB5AN also went an extra mile, and they said that, okay, if I want, I can go and have a physical view of the project itself before I commit myself to this project, which means that they were quite confident on the progress of the project, the number of sales that have been achieved, and the ability to share a quarterly summary report of the sales volume and the project progress. All this were quite attractive for me.
Got it. Okay, great. So when you were kind of zeroing in on, one project versus another, other than the project having, the 956F pre-approval and being in a rural area and being a loan, right? What are some of the other kind of important aspects that you were seeking, when you were considering, rural loan projects in the market?
Yeah. There were other two key elements, right? One element was the developer's portfolio itself, right? How long they've been in business, how many projects they've completed successfully. Is there any kind of bankruptcy filing by the developer at any given point in time of their existence? The number of years of experience from a developer point of view. So that was one of the key considerations. The next key consideration is the experience of the RC itself. All right, EB5AN has been in business for 13 plus years. So that was also very important to understand that, okay, an RC which has successfully been in the business for this long time, with I would say almost zero negative reviews, right, about how EB5AN has handled all their investors in the past. And the other key criteria from project perspective was to see if the project is already in flight, whether the project has sufficiently fulfilled the EB5 requirements in terms of the job creation. And all these were key aspects that made me move towards EB5AN and Tamarack project.
Okay, got it. And specifically talking about job creation, how did job creation kind of factor into your decision? Like what did you really focus on for job?
Yeah, for me, that is a basic requirement as per the USCIS requirement that for each EB5 petitioner, there should be at least 10 jobs created and sustained for a period of 2 years. With respect to EB5AN and this project itself, they had sufficient cushions, which means that they had created more additional jobs than the actual required number of jobs. So they had this extra cushion, and then this cushion ensures that the petition does not see any red flag in getting approval. The green card does not see any red flag in getting approval, or even at the end of the 2 years' time, when the conditional green card is getting converted to a permanent green card, the jobs are sustained for the duration of time.
Perfect. All right. So a little bit earlier, you mentioned, having a long, productive conversation with Jordan
Mhm.
on the EB5AN team. Including your interaction with Jordan and with our onboarding team, can you tell us a little bit about just what it was like working with our team once you decided, okay, Tamarack's the project I want to join. Now, what do I need to do to join the project and make sure my attorney gets all the materials they need and get my application filed?
Sure. Actually, the process was very smooth, right? I didn't see any hiccup. That there was a series of documentation that was shared with me, specifically in relation to how do I apply for this project, how do I set up the wire transfer, to whom do I set up the wire transfer, and how do I link my attorney with all the necessary documentation. So it was all quite smooth. I didn't face any kind of issue in managing this, and I believe I completed all this process within a couple of weeks' time.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Um, all right. I think taking a step back now that your application's been filed, everything's been submitted, what are some kind of general pieces of advice you'd have for potential investors in terms of, looking for a quality regional center and a potential project to invest in? Like what are some of those thoughts that you'd want to convey if someone said, hey, I'm looking for EB5 now, how should I think about picking a regional center and narrowing down a potential project?
Sure. Before getting into that, I just want to inform you that my petition was approved. Right. I filed in August of 2025, and the petition was approved in the first week of January. So in less than 5 months, I got my 526E petition approved. Now I'm waiting for the rest of the petition to get approved. So this is a very positive outcome, getting the petition approved in less than 5 months from the filing date.
Yep. And any RFEs or questions or just
No
approval?
RFEs. Yeah, no RFEs. I was just anxious uh, throughout this 4 month period to see if there's going to be any RFEs, but there was no RFEs. USCIS approved my petition before the 5 month mark.
Okay, that's great news. That's definitely a very fast approval. I think the fastest one we've gotten was just in like 60 days, but yeah, 3, 4, 5 months, we're seeing quite a few approvals come in, in less than 6 months. So that's great.
I understand why mine took around 5 months is because I split the investment into two phases, right? I first initially invested 600K, and a couple of months later, then I invested the remaining 200K. Probably that's the reason why my petition got approved in 5 months rather than 60 days or 90 days.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. All right. So going back to that question before about advice for someone in terms of picking a regional center, picking a project, what are some of the main things that you'd want to convey, to someone looking for a new project, let's say in early 2026?
Sure. But before getting there, I would like to give some kind of my advice on the EB5 itself. Uh, Firstly, this visa pathway is not for all, right? The investor will need to understand and evaluate their current situation and needs. And at the same time, they should be with the right frame of mind to accept the risks and outcomes of EB5, right? Secondly, they have to do a very thorough due diligence, um, ensuring that they take enough time, do their own research, if need by, engage a financial consultant, right? At least to ensure that uh, whatever research they are doing is more or less aligned from the financials point of view and from a timeline point of view. Once they complete their due diligence, then they have to go with an experienced immigration attorney, right? They cannot go with any attorneys. They have to ensure that they go with some immigration law firm who has been in the business for at least a couple of decades, who knows in and out of all this immigration laws, regulations, and possibly if that immigration law firm has had greater success with EB5 filing. Right. The next important advice for the EB5 prospective applicants is to understand all the financial elements that are associated with such a filing. Right. They have to take into consideration their investment itself as the core component, followed by the legal fees, which is actually substantial when it comes to EB5 petition. They have to look at all the filing fees from USCIS, not just the initial filing fees, but 2 years later, when they convert from conditional green card to a permanent green card, there is going to be a substantial fees included at that time as well. Then they have to look at all the USCIS fees. They have to look at any RC fees or any financial consultant fees, because all these auxiliary fees themselves are going to be quite substantial from an investor point of view. So they have to take all this into consideration, right? Um, Now, when it comes to selection of the project, as I mentioned, if they could possibly, they should start with creating a checklist to do a side-by-side comparison of all these various projects, right? Understand what are the criteria that they really are focused on. Because EB5, as I mentioned before, has different visa pathways. They have reserved, they have unreserved category, under-reserved, they have targeted employment area, they have high unemployment area, they have infrastructure investments. So they have to look at what would best suit their needs, their requirements. And then when it comes to picking the RC, that's going to be the most trickiest part. They have to do all thorough due diligence to talk to multiple RCs, see which RC's project fit in all their requirements, right? In my case, EB5AN was great. They fit in all the requirements that I had put forth for myself in the beginning, and that at least enabled me to move faster and cleaner towards my EB5 journey.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. All right. Thank you. That's really helpful. I would say one final question. In terms of some of the newer AI tools, ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, some of those research tools, how helpful, how much did you kind of leverage some of those tools to help you as you did some research on potential projects or potential regional centers?
I do a lot of research using those tools, right? I would say more than 50% of my research rely on using ChatGPT or Gemini. Both offer different results, right? So sometimes you have to take it with a pinch of salt on what output you get out of these AI tools. But as I mentioned, that should be probably 30 to 50% of the research. But the remaining 30 or 50% is only when you actually speak to different people, you go to different forums, do your own research. And that will give you at least a level of confidence that you're not purely relying on technology to give you information, but you include a human element as well.
Got it. Okay. Okay. So in summary, they were quite helpful, maybe half or a little more than half of kind of the research inputs, but you still have to, talk to someone from the regional center, talk to other people in the area perhaps, and look at some Google reviews, just do some independent kind of triangulation. Is that
Absolutely.
fair?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. All right. So in summary, would you recommend your EB5 immigration law firm and EB5AN to other potential investors, and why?
Sure. I wouldn't call it as a recommendation, right? Rather, I would give references, right? I would, if somebody approaches me, and I have quite a number of people who have approached me on Reddit asking for different information. So what I do is I give them reference and I share my journey and my experience with them. And I will leave the due diligence and decision making to those respective individuals. Um, they shouldn't feel that uh, I'm being paid to give a reference or recommendation, right? So I share my journey with all hard timelines, hard facts, and if they are still interested, they could move forward with whatever reference and recommendations that I give.
Perfect. And that's absolutely how it should be. Just here's the experience. Here's, what was interesting for me. Here's what worked. Here was my results. Got approval in just a few months. Here's the attorney that helped me with the petition. And, unfortunately right now the Tamarack project is full.
Yes,
But, maybe there will be other similar projects, available in the future or that are open now to consider.
absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Vinodh. That was super, super comprehensive. And yeah, really, really appreciate you taking the time to share your experience and what worked for you and how you kind of approach the research process.
Thanks a lot, Sam, for taking time. I know you're extremely busy with several projects under your belt, but this conversation has been really entertaining for me. And I hope my testimonial helps you in any which way possible.
I'm sure it will. Thank you very much, Vinodh. And let us know if you need any other info or if anything comes up that we can help you with.
Absolutely. I will do that.
Okay. Have a good one. Bye.
You have a good day. Thanks. Bye-bye.